All right, so in this video is going to kind of be a mixed practice of subtracting whole numbers and decimals and some decimals and decimals. So a couple things that we're going to make sure that we do is we are going to be writing these vertically. We are going to be lining up our decimals. We will be renaming decimals by adding zeros when necessary, which will be necessary, especially with subtraction. And we are going to be bringing down the decimal. So let's go ahead and get started. This problem reads as $43 minus 27 cents. Now, we don't see the cent sign very often, but in this case, we are going to have to change that in the form of a decimal. So we're going to write 43, and I like to go ahead and show that we have 0 cents on my 43. Then when I rewrite the 27 cents, I'm also going to put the decimal in front because when you have cents, that's going to be written as a decimal. All right, so now we're ready to subtract this. But I want you to notice that on this particular problem, we are subtracting from a zero. So we've got $43 minus 27 cents, okay? So 0 minus 7 is impossible, and we can't borrow from a zero, so we have to go over here to the $3. So we're actually going to borrow from the $3. It's going to become $2, and we bring our $1 over here. So now we have $1 here. But that doesn't help me subtract the 7 yet. But I can borrow from the dollar, which is the 10 here, and I can make that 90 cents and bring over 10 cents right here in the form of a 1. So now we have 10 cents minus 7 cents is 3 cents. Then I can subtract 9 minus 2, and I'll get 70, which really that's 90 cents minus 20 cents, which is 70 cents. I'm going to bring my decimal straight down right where it's at. And then we have $42 minus nothing is going to be $42. Okay, so that just kind of shows you how we can change cents into decimals and make sure we subtract them if we're dealing with money. All right, now let's take a look at this next one. We've got a whole number of 27 minus 4 and 698 thousandths. So this actually has a decimal right here. Okay, so 27 has a decimal right after the 7, but when it's a whole number, you don't need to write it. But when I write it over here, because I am subtracting a decimal, I am going to put my decimal there. That will help me line up my second set of numbers. So if I bring my decimal straight down, I know that 4 is going to go over here because it's 4 ones under my 7. And then I have 698 thousandths. Now, when you're subtracting, you have to fill in the extra numbers with zeros. So for sure, we have to put zeros here in order to subtract this out. Now again, we're subtracting with several zeros on top. We cannot take 0 minus 8, so we have to keep borrowing. So we're going to have to go all the way over here to the ones place. We have to borrow from that first. So we're going to borrow from that. That's going to become a 6, and this is going to become a 1,000. Now we're going to subtract our 1,000 from 698. Okay, but I'm still going to have to do a little bit of more borrowing, so I can cross this out. This is going to become a 9, and I'm going to bring 1 over here. Still need to borrow one more time, so I'm going to cross this out. This is going to become a 9 and bring our 1 over here. Now we can finally subtract. So we have 10 minus 8 is going to be 2. 9 hundredths minus 9 hundredths is going to be 0. 9 tenths minus 6 tenths is going to be 3. Put my decimal place right there. We're bringing it straight down. And then 6 minus 4 is 2. And then 20 minus nothing is still going to be 20. So our final answer here is going to be 22 and 302 thousandths. All right, if you think you've got it, you can pause the video and get going. But we're going to do a couple more just for some extra practice. Okay, so now we've got 3 and 2 tenths minus 7 thousandths. This has 3 decimal places, so it's called thousandths. This has 1 decimal place, so we call it tenths. So I'm going to write my first number, which is 3 and 2 tenths. I know my decimal's here, so I'm going to bring my decimal straight down. That'll help me line up the rest of the number, so I'm going to just write it exactly as it's written with my decimal in the right place. Now again, notice we're going to have to add some zeros here. So we're going to add 2 zeros here because with subtraction, you have to add the zeros, especially if they're on the top digit. So 7 minus 0, we can't do. We can't borrow from the 0. So we're going to have to go all the way to the 2/10. So I'm going to borrow from 2/10. It's going to become 1/10. And we bring our other 10th over here. Now we can borrow from this because it's no longer a 0. It's now a 10. So we can borrow from that. And it's going to become a 9. We bring our 1 here. Now we're ready to subtract. So let's go ahead and take 10 thousandths minus 7 thousandths is going to be 3. 9 thousandths minus 0 thousandths is going to be 9. 1 thousandths minus 0 thousandths is 1. And 3 minus 0 is 3. And we are going to bring that decimal straight down for our final answer of 3 and 193 thousandths. 3 decimal places would be called thousandths. All right, last one. A little bit more to do with money. So what do we do when we have money and some of them has decimals and some of them don't? So technically we know there is a decimal here, okay? All whole numbers have decimals in them. We just don't always write them. So we're going to rewrite this as 3. We're going to put our decimal there minus 2 6/100. So we put our 2 here, our decimal goes there, and 0, 6. Now, you can see that we are missing some numbers on top, and since this is subtraction, we absolutely have to write those. So let's go ahead and fill those in with zeros, okay? So 6 cannot be subtracted from 0, so we're going to borrow from the next digit, and it's a 0, so we have to keep going over to the number 3. So we're going to borrow from 3 wholes. We're going to bring this over here, and that's going to become 10. So instead of 0/10, it's now 10/10. Now that it's 10/10, we can borrow, so this is going to become 9/10, and we put one of our tenths over here. So 10 minus 6 is 4, 9 minus 0 is 9, and 2 minus 2 is 0. So our final answer would be 94 hundredths. So that's what you need to do when you have missing numbers on subtraction. You need to fill them in with zeros, and don't forget to borrow and ungroup and regroup as necessary.